I went to my husband, I was like, oh my God, they don't want me to continue as the CEO. And he was like, are you crazy?
You got the greatest
deal ever. Take your money, run.
And go do something else.
But my ego was like, wait a minute, I am this company.
Great to see you today. You look amazing, as always.
Thank you. So nice to see you.
You always bring, anytime I see you, I automatically get happier. Are you always the same?
Always the same.
Always.
I'm always the same.
Even when the two 2-year-olds are driving you. I lose 17 months. I just call him basically 2.
Yeah,
and he's just crossing into that no,
you're
hitting,
in it. You're in like this zone now. It's like a year of like nuts.
It's rough, throwing, hitting,
all the things. Also not really understanding their bodies and like where things can hurt them. Like it's a disaster.
And you stay happy through all that?
I do. I'm just like a glass half full person. You know, like I'm just like default happy.
And is that nature, or were you nurtured that way?
No, that's nature. I was nurtured the opposite way. Don't trust, don't be too happy, you don't know what's gonna happen, there's danger around the corner, watch. Like, no, not.
So it was just nature?
It's just nature. That's who I am.
Obviously, you, over your career, sold 2 companies early, built many more. So you're obviously a great entrepreneur, but what do you consider yourself? Forget entrepreneur, we know that. Are you a salesperson, a marketer, an engineer? You know, entrepreneurs usually have some. What do you consider yourself?
You know what, I'm good at 2 things. So I think I'm a really good self-starter. I'm good at like, you know, some people can envisage something, but they can't get it like moving. Yeah. I'm good at getting something like off the ground from 0. And then I'm a pretty good, like I'm good at the culture piece. Like I can go like, that's the thing, that's the North Star, and you lot, you're coming with me. You know, it's like I'm good at galvanizing everybody around an idea, showing people the way, and then everyone follows.
When did you realize you were good at those things?
I think probably in school. You know,
really?
like
when, as a little kid?
Yeah, I feel like really little. You know, like in school, like I could change the game. Like everyone's playing football, I'm like, we're gonna do bulldog. Like, let's just move. You know, and it's like, that's always been my thing, that I feel like I could always like coerce everybody into seeing what I could see in something.
And do you ever get nervous in doing that? Meaning like, oh shit, because you're human, you could be wrong. You've been right a lot.
I've been wrong a lot too.
Which is I
just don't talk about those as much.
Do you get nervous in those? Like, do you ever get nervous like, okay, everybody's playing football in the school year. I think we should be playing something else. But if you take everyone over there, there's gonna be people who go, oh, I don't wanna do this, this sucks.
You know, that's just not ever the way that I think. I think I'm a natural born risk taker. I come from a family of like gamblers, like professional gamblers, right?
Me too.
That's it. You
That's
do?
how I got my name.
No,
my
really?
name is Maverick. Yeah,
that's how you got your name?
My grandmother, when I was a kid, everyone's heard this story many times, but she ran after hours. So like Friday, Saturday, literally, that was her business.
And so you're Maverick, and so why did I get called Emma? Nothing.
They could
have given me something a little more flavor, a little bit more interesting. No, so I do. I come from a family of gamblers, and I think that is in my blood, right? It's just like I'm a natural born risk taker. So I never really, and I think an element of that when you're young, you know, you're also kind of, you have the blinkers on, you don't know what can go wrong. And so I think that naivety has led me into a lot of good situations, that's for sure, certainly in business. I'm not scared like that. Like I'm not shook if I'm standing on my own. And usually I kind of take it as a bit of a barometer and go like, you know, sometimes when people don't necessarily agree with you or they don't see what you see, I'm like, I'm onto something. Like I've got something here.
Tell me a bit about your family when you say that they were professional gamblers.
Oh, they're professional at a lot of things, my family.
Because you're from East London.
Yeah, I'm from East London.
Which I've heard lots about.
Which everyone always says, why are you so specific on East London? Because it's a bit like, you know, if you're from Brooklyn or if you're from, like, you know,
from Compton.
Exactly. It means a set of things,
it means
right?
a thing, yes.
It means a thing.
Totally.
And what it means is you probably grew up pretty poor, but you had an amazing community and you had no idea you were poor because everyone was in the same place, right? Everyone was in the same bucket. And so I grew up with a tremendous sense of community and also like an understanding that like your word was very, very important. So you would do a handshake, you said you were going to do something, and you came good on that promise. And that was really instilled in me from a very, very, very young age. I could trust a lot of the people that were around me, except the people you couldn't trust. And, you know, it means something to come from that place. But I was raised by a single mum. I'm one of 4 girls. I didn't know my dad until much, much later in my life, until my late teens. And, you know, but I think where I grew up from, I had like a really solid foundation. Like I had a really great mum that taught me principally a lot about being a strong woman. And I never had any self-doubt at all.
And was your mom a gambler?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, she still is actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, like a soft gambler. You know, she's not gambling her life away, but she likes a bit of the bingo. Like, she'll love a slot machine. I wouldn't leave her in Vegas, you know. Not with my money, anyway.
When she comes here, does she like to go to Vegas?
I do not allow her to go to Vegas. That's not smart in my group.
Yeah, I get it. And then how do you, a little bit of your career, you started obviously, when you first started, you started a company called ITB, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell us a bit of how'd you start that, why'd you pick that industry, and then you exited that.
I love the way you say, why did you choose that? You know, I always feel like I have fallen into things. I grew up like obsessed about fashion, and I would have done anything to be involved in fashion. Because East London, all the things that it is, it's not a glamorous place. You know, it wasn't somewhere where I saw people making money and doing great things. And so for me, it was like, how do I get out of here and get into a new context? And I just loved fashion. I grew up in London, and so it was all about these supermodels and these incredible like British designers, Alexander McQueen and John Galliano, and I just wanted to get closer to the creative industries. And I kind of found myself in a production company where they produced the shows. I then fell into this role of, you know, raising money for fashion designers because nobody had any way of putting on these shows. And then I started a company because I became the default girl that you call when you get out of Central St. Martin's. It used to be like, you know, I need money for a show, which means I need a brand deal, I'll call Emma. And so I kind of carved out this little reputation for myself. And from that, I started a company that strictly did that. So I was like working with brands, figuring out partnerships and collaborations.
For designers.
For designers and artists mostly. And then the kind of tide turned, right? It became celebrity everything. And in those days, they weren't even called influencers, they were bloggers. And these bloggers didn't have agents. It was like their mom or their boyfriend. And so honestly, I did whatever I could do. I'd love to say there was this big strategic thought process for how it's like, I knew the brands, I knew that they needed deals, and I would put the two things together. And as I went along, I figured out how to wrap it into a service offering. I figured out how to like truly monetize it. And that business became really successful and really great. And in the middle of it, there were a ton of mistakes. There were things that didn't go so well, but I essentially figured out how to create an agency. I had hundreds of staff, and, you know, it worked out really well for me.
You sold to Rogers and Cohen.
Mm-hmm.
I've exited companies before too, but it's always a thing, like, is it too early, is it too late?
Yeah.
I don't know. Or you have your next idea, so I need the capital.
That's where it came for me.
So yeah, so what was it for you? How did you know now is the day, sign the deal, I've built this agency, I love fashion, I love what I'm doing, but it's time to go?
You know, I think what happened, if I'm really honest, I found myself creating value for other people over and over and over again. And I was like, I need a little piece of that. And of course, as a consultant, you get your fee and you need to be happy with your fee. And I saw what I was doing was creating so much intrinsic value for these brands that I was like, either I'm going to start my own thing and my own brand, or I'm going to be a consultant forever and I'll get my little slice of the pie. And often you don't get any, you know, nobody says, this is the person that did that, right? The brand stands there, they have their incredible campaign, they take full credit, and you're the consultant in the corner that everybody's forgot about. So I just thought, you know, rather than being bitter, rather than sitting there being like, I did that, I would just create something. And I had been around enough kind of small fashion businesses to see how wrong things can go, right? Like everybody at that point in time is so fixated, especially in the London fashion scene, on like having these incredible show presentations, spending a lot of money, not really building the foundation of the business. And so I just thought, I'm going to do something that I understand. And at the time, I had a lot of denim clients. You know, I had Calvin Klein, I had G-Star, and I just thought, that I knew something about that. Now, when I pass through, it's like I knew nothing. Honestly, I knew nothing. But in my head, I really thought that I knew something. And so I took what I knew from having done all of these incredible talent-based partnerships. And I was like, I'm going to start a brand with a talent. That's what I'm going to do.
Usually when any entrepreneur, almost always, especially one like you who is a force of nature, Rogers & Cohen buys it or whatever, how did they not force you to stay or try and keep you there to run the whole fucking thing?
Well,
like,
that is
it's
really
very
good
rare
story.
that anybody gets out. You very much so.
So this is a really good story and actually a really important lesson for me, because at that point, that was the second company that I had ever sold. And the second time somebody had told me, actually, we're gonna get on with the company without you. And I was devastated. When Rogers & Cohen said, you know what, we've got a guy within the agency with more experience than you that's gonna take your agency and run it better than you could, I was like,
because it's a shot to your ego?
Oh my God.
By the way, just so you know, every entrepreneur begs for...
Well, but I didn't know that.
Everyone begs for someone to go, here's your money, see you later.
Exactly.
It's usually the opposite way. Like,
exactly.
Here's 20% of your money.
Well, this is what my
husband... You gotta work for us.
But then you gotta earn out,
You gotta
right?
earn it.
But this is what I went to my husband, I was like, oh my God, they don't want me to continue as the CEO. And he was like, are you crazy?
You got the greatest
Take your
deal
money,
ever.
run.
And go do something else.
Yes, but my ego was like, wait a minute, I am this company.
Of course.
And you know what it's like? You create a company oftentimes in your own essence, right?
Of course, that's the whole
in the vision
point.
of you. And so
Yes.
in my head, I was like, the phone is gonna stop ringing. This is not a brand, this is Emma and Company. And, you know, I couldn't even imagine what it would be without me. But, you know, at that time, I didn't really see it. But I took the advice of my husband, I took the money, and I ran. And I had already started cooking something, but it wasn't a fully fleshed out project, and it wasn't something that I thought would pay the bills. You know, I thought, this is the first time I've ever done anything in apparel. It's gonna be a slow burn. And of course, it probably was the single best thing that ever happened to me.
You start Good American, which is, I love Chloe, by the way, which is a huge success.
Amazing.
But if you could do it again, like starting that, forget where you are today, like going back then, what different would you do or what would you think about? Because you said you thought you knew a lot about denim. So now you're launching a denim brand, which is now a massive denim brand. But what would you do different if you could go back now to then?
You know, I don't know that I'd do much different. And I say that not with arrogance, I say it because, you know, sometimes the stars align, right? Like things happen in the perfect time. And I'm big on energy and like really like knowing what I'm in control of and what just happens because I did it in the right time. And I honestly feel like specifically with Good American, it was an incredible moment in time. And I'm not someone who like sits with regrets. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, this happened, it was supposed to be. And I'm also like somebody, like, I'm in constant learning mode, right? I'm like always trying to figure out how I can improve how I do what I do. And so I don't ever look back and go, oh, I would do something totally different, because it was absolutely perfect for that moment and also for who I was then. And I think what's really important, and especially for me, like I've leveraged every single thing I've ever done into something else. And I continue to do that. And so, you know, it's like if I didn't do Good American, I always feel like then, you know, we wouldn't have had Skims. And if we didn't do Skims, then I wouldn't have had something else. And so for me, I never think about it in those kind of like terms. I'm like, Good American was perfect for what it was at that moment. And, you know, it was a business that I created that I think is, you know, it was such a reflection of how I felt and what I had experienced. And it was and is perfect to me.
How does the little girl from East London that loved fashion, that grew up around professional gamblers, how do you thread that through being a mom, being an entrepreneur? How does that show up? Because obviously you're in a much different place, just literally, geographically, but also in life. You also have kids who I'm sure a lot of that, I go talk to I was talking to my dad about this the other day. I want them to have a lot of, I'm a kid from North Akron that, I want them to have a lot of that, but I can't literally give that to them. They're different. So how do you thread all that shit you learned and filtered that was good through everything you do now?
You know, that's such a great question. And I think it's about mindset, right? Like, what are the stories that you tell yourself? And I'm very honest about who I am, what's important to me, where I come from. And that comes back to this thing of like, what do I need to do to be happy? And what do I need to do to fulfill my own potential? And so I'm very conscious of all of that stuff all the time, because I can sit here and tell myself, you know, that all of this other stuff, everybody else's agenda is really important to me. The thread is always coming back to, it's like, what is important to me and how do I speak to myself and why does that matter so much? And it really, really does, because my view is that the most important relationship that you can have is the one that you have with yourself. And so when I think about what that means to me every day, it's like, I have to be sweet to me. It's like, I have to be kind to myself and I have to think about who I am in everything that I do. And so I really just try not to change, you know? It's like, I am who I am in every single room and I make no apology for it. And I think that that's what's kept me successful. That's what's kept me happy. That's what's kept me in a great marriage. That's what makes me a good mum. That's what makes me a good boss, because at the end of the day, I know who I am and I'm cool with it.
I couldn't agree. I say this at our company all the time. I couldn't agree with it more. And the line that sums it up to me is, put your mask on first.
Yeah.
Before assisting others. That's
it.
That is
it. That is it.
It's
like the core of everything.
You can help others. It's
all day long.
Actually, we want you to, but put your mask on first. Make sure you can breathe first. You often talk about being prepared. My dad always, street talk always says, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Which you obviously always do. My dad has lots of these. You know?
I love a good dad line.
So he's like, all day. The other day I was talking to him, he was saying, like, we were talking about a friend of ours who's having a bit of a tough time. My dad goes, yeah, he's stuck in neutral.
Oh,
so he's got,
it's a good one. I never want anyone to say that about me ever.
I agree.
Ever.
I agree. But we all, throughout the day, sometimes I get neutral, like,
it happens.
It happens. You got to get out of it and get back in drive, right? So you often talk about being prepared. And like, has there ever been, kind of two parts of this question, has there ever been a moment or something that being prepared that it led to something directly? And then how do you just always kind of stay prepared? Because you said you're always looking for the next thing.
I think about this in two ways, right? When Good American kicked off and we had that first day, that like now infamous $1 million first day of sales, I was like, I am going. I'm going to LA. I'm going to pick up or drop everything and move. And at that point, I had a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. And that was a big decision for me because I was very comfortable. You know, it's like I'd sold the company in London. I had a nice house and a country house. And I was like, that's the risk taker in me that was like, you go where the energy is. You go where the momentum is. You know, when things are going good, you lean in. But I also think what is really important, and like specifically for women, right? You have to think, if you are a person that wants kids, I have 4, and I always knew, like once I'd met my husband, that I wanted to have children. There's an element of plannedness and preparation that has to happen around that, right? And it's like, there is no point in me sitting here and being like, yeah, just like, you know, roll with it and pop out babies and everything lines up. No, that is absolutely not the case. I had to very, very carefully think about what type of mum I wanted to be, what type of business owner I could be at that time, and lean in and lean out to those responsibilities. And again, have a level of honesty with myself about what that would mean, right? It's like I wasn't the mum that I had. And, you know, I kind of set things up in my head about perhaps what type of parent I wanted to be, and I knew something would have to give. And I had to get comfortable with those decisions. So I think that there was a lot, again, I always talk about this internal voice and what happens in my head, and there was a lot of talking to myself and reckoning to myself about what it would mean for my career should I choose to have babies throughout my 30s. And so that was a time that I had to really get prepared for.
And what type of mom are you?
I'm a, you know, let's just be honest about this. I have a lot of help, right? I have people everywhere, like in every part of my life as well. But I am a very hands-on mum. Like I make all the decisions, I just don't execute everything. So I ain't washing the clothes, I'm not changing their beds, I don't cook them dinner every night. I'm not at the school gala, I'm not at the school gate. But it's like, when my kid falls over, that kid's coming to me.
Got
They
it.
like, I am the mum. I am the one who is like there for them. I make sure I'm there for them every single morning, and I put them to bed at night, and then I might just go back on my emails or go out.
Yeah.
But it's like the type of relationship that I have with my kids. I think what's really important is, again, it's about headspace, right? It's like when I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids. I have a rule that I don't take my phone out of my handbag when I get home. It stays there, and I just have to have like, you know, that 2 hours where it's just not something that I'm doing, because when I'm in something, I like to be fully in it. And my kids need that, and they deserve that. And that's the type of intentionality that I have around parenting. But again, it's kind of just about, like, I'm an all-in person, right? So whatever I'm doing it 100%. I'm just not half-assed about anything.
That's amazing. Emma, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank
you
you,
for
my
the
dear.
conversation. I learned so much. You are actually way more Maverick than I am. I just got the name. Your name should be
I'm going
Maverick.
to take it. I'm going to get a
Yes,
T-shirt.
that should be who you are. Exactly. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, my dear. It's so good
Appreciate
to
you.
speak to you.
Thank you.